The province of Champagne is one of the oldest provinces in France, and vines have always grown on its hillsides. Located approximately 130 kilometers northeast of Paris, the Champagne vineyards currently covers nearly 30,000 hectares. The boundaries have been laid down very precisely by French laws, and it comprises the area of la Montagne de Reims, la Vallée de la Marne, la Côte des Blancs, le Cézanne, and la Vallée de l'Aube. The Champagne vineyards are made of about 350,000 parcels of land, which are individually named and itemized. Only wines made from these grapes, grown in these vineyards, can bear the Champagne appellation. In fact, nowhere else has the same mix of climate and geological elements that combines to give Champagne its unique personality. The three grapes varieties that grows in the Champagne region, the Pinot Noir, the Pinot Meunier, and the Chardonnay, have been selected for their great ability to adapt themselves to the particular characteristic of the Champenois soil, the subsoil, and also the climate. Furthermore, the quality of the aroma that they develop cannot be duplicated anywhere else. Harvesting in Champagne takes place 100 days after flowering, that is at the end of September or at the beginning of October. Once the fruit is ripe, it must be picked quickly, and nearly 30,000 grape pickers come to help from nearby regions. Grape picking in Champagne is entirely manual. This is not only because of traditions, but also because it is the law. Each plant of vine is identified, each basket labeled, and only grapes from the same vine and the same area are pressed together. The picked grapes are then taken to different press centers located in the various villages. The presses that they use in Champagne are still of the traditional types. They can hold 4,000 kilos of grapes at one time. The pressing obeys one essential rule. The grapes have to be crushed quickly, but with a moderate pressure, and the must has to be fragmented to isolate the finest flavor of the juice. After the first pressing, we have approximately 2,000 liters called the cuvée. Following pressings will give 500 liters, and these are called the taille. In total, for each 4,000 kilos of grapes, we will have a maximum of 2,500 liters of juice. The juice is classified into the following categories: type of vine, plot of land, cru, cuvée, or by taille. The juice, called must, now begin their first fermentation. 6 months later, they will have turned into wine, but this wine will differ vastly depending on whether they remain in traditional wooden cask, which gives certain typical characteristics, or in more modern stainless steel vats. Traditionally, it is in the spring following the harvest that the champagne winemakers begin to taste the different champagne wines, following which the wine will be chosen and blended. The blending is one of the most important moments in the production of champagne. It is an extremely delicate and complicated process, and a time where each champagne producer has to try and imagine how each individual wine could and will develop, and how best to use them so that their individual assets are developed to their best advantage in the final product. It is that decision which allows the style and character of each individual brand to be maintained from one year to the next. The ensemble of blended wine makes the cuvée. Canned sugar and natural yeast to encourage fermentation are added. Then, the wine is put into bottles. Once they have been firmly sealed, the bottles are taken down to the cellars. The majority of champagne cellars have been dug deep into the chalk and make up a network of galleries measuring more than 250 kilometers in total. The temperature is kept constant at 10 degrees centigrade, and the wines are kept in the dark and left undisturbed, allowing them to undergo their second fermentation. Slowly, the yeasts transform the sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Under a pressure of almost 6 atmospheres, the gas trapped in the bottle blends with the wine. This is called the prise de mousse. Slowly an exchange takes place, which will give the wine the aroma necessary for it to mature. At this stage, the wine must be given the time it needs to develop fully to the best of its advantage. After 2 to 3 years of aging, it will be necessary to remove the sediments which will have formed inside the bottle. The bottles are placed neck first into a sloping rack. For several weeks, a remueur, a riddler, will raise slightly and turn each bottle so that the deposit will slowly slide down to the neck of the bottle. A good riddler can turn as many as 50,000 bottles a day. It takes 2 to 3 months for the deposit to collect in the crown cork. During this time, the bottle is gradually raised into a vertical position before the deposit is removed in the operation called le dégorgement, disgorging. At some champagne firms, this is still carried out by hand. The removal of the deposit causes a small loss of some wine, which will be replaced by some of the same cuvée. Then the liqueur de dosage is added, made out of the oldest preserved wine and canned sugar, to obtain different types of champagne: brut, with very little liquor, sec or demi-sec, which is the sweetest. Then each bottle receives its new cork, marked with the name of the house, and the cage is fitted. Every bottle is given a final shake to blend the liquor with the wine. A more modern and easier method of disgorging the wine is by plunging the neck of the bottles into a bath of brine which has a temperature of -20 degrees centigrade. The deposit becomes frozen into a little ice cube. After the bottle is opened, the pressure inside ejects the block of ice from the bottleneck and all the impurities with it. The liqueur de dosage is then added, then the cork and its cage. The bottles are carefully viewed and checked one by one. Any single ones containing the slightest impurities will be immediately withdrawn. It is then the final dressing of the bottle with the golden foil and the label. They are finally wrapped in cellophane or paper. For larger size magnums, for example, traditional methods by hand still prevails. Every day, champagne sets off around the world. How to serve champagne? The best method is to use an ice bucket filled with cold water on ice, into which the bottle is placed half-hour before serving. In this way, the cooling is gradual. If there is rules for light and temperature, there is also a certain ritual to follow for the opening of the bottle. This should be accomplished without removing the bottle from the ice bucket. Remove the wire cage, twist in opposite direction, slowly, allowing a little effervescence to escape, so that the champagne will not spill. The glasses should be filled to 2/3. A full glass is not elegant, and the champagne risks warming up since it remains longer in the glass. For the same reason, one never serves champagne in advance. The privilege of kings and queens, the caprice of stars, or simply for the pleasure of the gourmet and the connoisseur, champagne will always be the most noble of all wines.